video is going to be about the differences between making a reed with a light gouge as opposed to a heavier gouge. Now it's from the same machine, except it's about 0.04 of a millimeter in difference in the center. And I just wanted to show you what the advantages of using something that's gouged a little lighter. You know, it's possible to make reeds from gouges that are heavy, you know, like 62 and so on. A good gouge that's around 58, 59 will be much quicker and much easier to make a reed from. First we'll start with the light, which is this one. And we'll go about making our tip. I think in reed making sometimes we lose our perspective, and I know this happens to me quite a bit, where I'll think that I'm going a certain direction and I'm able to make the reeds, but it's as though I went too far in a certain direction. What I mean by that is making the gouge too strong. Sometimes I think we're easily duped into thinking that cane that's heavier gouged is going to give you a bigger, warmer sound. And that may be the case in some instances, but it also comes with a lot of drawbacks. One of those is that the reed will not settle for quite some time because it's got a lot more wood on it. Also, it generally won't respond as well. It'll just be more resistant and it won't be as subtle. On the other hand, sometimes reeds that are too thin just sound thin and don't have a lot of substance, tend to close up and that sort of thing. So we have to find a in-between. And I'm hoping this is the in-between, but I won't know until I clip it. And generally speaking, you don't have to take quite as much in the channels. A reed that has a little lighter gouge. And I didn't really realize that my gouge was too heavy until I went to a friend's house recently and looked at some reeds that were sent to him from another player, and I was like, wow, that gouge is a lot less than mine on the sides, and yet this guy can make just fantastic reeds. So it kind of, you know, a light went off. So I came back home and I'm like, alright, I gotta take a little wood off of this thing, and sure enough, yeah, I mean, it does make a difference. Reeds are quicker and they respond a lot easier. It's a good idea sometimes to get perspective, see other people's reeds, see what they're doing, and what they're like as a player, and so on. Let's clip it, see if we can get it to make sounds. And yeah, it is much lighter than the heavier reed. It's a little long, but now it doesn't matter if you make the tip at the beginning or the end, really, depending on how you make your reeds. But you will have to refine the tip to get it to settle down a little bit. Otherwise, it'll be quite ducky. You know, it's a balancing act. It really is. You don't want to go too far in one direction, or kind of have to have an eye for how far you can go. And I probably went too far in the back a little bit too soon, but I think we'll be able to manage. I think this reed is going to work. Clip it a little bit. Might have to I can tell it still needs a little more in the tip. And I think we're pretty close. Yeah, it's a much quicker reed, and let me just clip it. Still not quite a C, and you know, I'm kind of a stickler about that, but it's a little flat, it's okay if it crows a little flat. Of course, as you clip it, the tip gets a little heavier, and you have to refine it. So I think one more time, and it'll be close. It might be a good idea to let it set overnight, you know, instead of trying to do it in one sitting. I think it probably would help. However, there are players that don't have a problem making a reed in one sitting, and it lasts them a good long time. It can be done. I'm not really one of those players. I kind of have to nurse the reeds. So this cane is definitely, well, it's the same cane as the other reed. This gouge is a bit lighter, and it is easier to use. It makes a reed much quicker. And I think you probably get better results if you go that direction. But of course you'll have to experiment on your own and find. But don't lose sight of where you are in reed making, so that you can, if you're going too far in one direction, you can reverse. You know, maybe if the gouge is too heavy, you can make it a little lighter. And that's a healthy way to test it. The problem with this reed is that it leaks, and that's not the cane. It's the tube is a little too big for the shape, and I knew that going into it. But yeah, this reed turned out nice. It didn't take too long. It's a lot easier. It's very stable, has a nice tone, and so on, and finishes quickly. And I think it's a little easier because you don't have to take so much out of the channels to get it to respond. So I'd like to show you now what this same gouge, a bit thicker, how that affects the reed. So we'll try to do this quickly. And I'm going to, well, I'll do it all on this, but it's the same cane, the same gouger, it's just a little heavier, that's all. It does affect the tone a bit. But I think primarily it just affects the speed at which you're able to make the reed. And if you want to make your reeds quicker. I also think that the reed takes longer to settle when the gouge is heavy, because it kind of has to settle under its own weight. And it keeps it from being, in some ways, stable. Now I find that the channels have to be scraped a bit more with a heavier gouge. Yeah, this is it's blowing back, and so I cut a bit. On a lighter gouge, this would have been a lot freer, but on this, not really. So what I'll do is probably in the channels here. I know I'm going to finish the tip some more, but I think this will be a case of just fixing the tip, and then it'll work out okay. I recently was making some reeds, and they played, but they were kind of blowback, and they're a bit stuffy and so on. And I'd scraped just about everywhere I could, and then I realized that because the gouge was so heavy, I just kind of had to scrape through the channels. This really lightened up the reed quite a bit and made it flexible, but also kept the pitch, which was nice. My biggest fear anyway when scraping the channels in the heart is not having anything to come back to the next day. And so, but sometimes there's no way around that. You just have to. In reed making, that's kind of a leap of faith, really. Going further than you're comfortable with. So that is better, and I could probably let it set overnight and so on, but I think I'll just try to finish it now. The main differences, as you could tell, were that with the lighter gouge, the reed is more apt to be closer than with the gouge that's heavier. And when the gouge is heavier, you got to do a lot more scraping. So I'm just trying to show you that if you're doing lots and lots of scraping to get the reed to play, lighten your gouge a little bit, and you'll get to understand the way the gouge vibrates too. Have a better understanding of it. So here we have like virtually identical reeds. So there's that one. That was from the heavier gouge, and this is from the lighter gouge. Let's play this one again. So I would advise, they're very similar reeds made from the same cane, which is not great, but this one was gouged 0.04 of a millimeter less at around 0.58. This was gouged at about 0.62, an advantage to have the gouge a little lighter. Now the reeds turned out to be very similar. It was easier to make the yellow one than the red one. The red one, we kind of lost our footing, knowing exactly how much cane we needed to take off. All right, well, I hope that maybe clarifies some of the things about the gouge. Make sure you keep experimenting and find out what works for you.